So part of my debates today, we had a massive, like 7 people come in with the same argument, a priori. They kept saying that it was conceptual evidence, logical evidence that worked for an empirical claim. They were making the claim that their God made the universe. It's an empirical claim. And I said, what's your empirical data? And they said, no, we're going to use analytical truth. And then he used a priori. I want to explain to you guys why that doesn't work. In philosophy, a priori knowledge is knowledge independent of experience. You don't need to observe the world to know it's true. Examples of a priori are mathematical, 2 plus 2 is 4. Logical truths, if all humans are mortal and Socrates is human, then Socrates is mortal. And analytic truths, all bachelors are unmarried. True by definition or by reasoning, not by looking at the world. So it's not empirical, it's something that is purely logical. In contrast, in posteriori knowledge comes from experience or observation, which is the definition of empirical. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. You have to test or observe it. You don't just know it, you have to go test it. So that's the problem with that argument when it comes to a God claim. You are saying a claim that needs to be tested. We can imagine a world without God. So it's not just set up as a priori. It's not axiomatic. So, and I tried to explain this to this gentleman, and he continued laughing and just laughing. Wait until you learn about analytic truths. Wait until you learn about a priori. Guys, first of all, the reason that I don't, they try to, a lot of the arguments, they'll try to derail it a little bit because my prompt is there's no evidence for God. And they always try to derail it by attacking my knowledge. They'll be like, okay, do you know what this is? And I'll be like, it doesn't matter. It did not matter. It does not matter if I do or do not know what a priori is. Empirical claims require empirical data. And you can go through any logical argument you want, you can go through any philosophical argument you want. Empirical claims require empirical data. This is why logical fallacies are a big deal. If you are assuming God as a priori, it is begging the question. You're assuming the truth of the premises. You're assuming the truth that your God is necessary and already exists without evidence providing so. He then tried to argue that his God is metaphysical. My first argument, which I conceded to him, was no, it's religious metaphysics, not metaphysics. And then I went and did my search because he laughed at me, and I was like, okay, if you're laughing at me, I must be wrong. So I went and searched it up and ended up me being wrong. So I conceded, okay, your God is a metaphysical claim. Wonderful. Is the universe metaphysical or empirical? And he conceded it's empirical. I said, okay, your God made the empirical universe. And he conceded, yes. I said, okay, what's the data for this? And he said, a priori. I said, okay, so what's the data? He said, it's a priori. I said, so what evidence do you have that your God made the universe? He said, oh, you don't need empirical data for it. The metaphysical claims and logical analytical truths are evidence enough for it because there's no other way that it could exist. That's fallacious in and of itself. Again, begging the question. You are assuming that the premise is true without evidence. What we do have evidence for is the Big Bang Theory. Now, the evidence in my ignorance on physics, the evidence I know of for the Big Bang Theory is going to be cosmic microwave background radiation and James Webb Telescope. That's evidence. We can look at, observe, and it's falsifiable. We can demonstrate it. What evidence and tool do you have to know that a God made the universe? It doesn't exist, period. Like this shouldn't even be an argument at all. But people genuinely don't understand, and they have such a hardcore cognitive dissonance that they cannot accept any truth that goes against their belief. They just can't accept it, even though the blatant facts are right there. This is the definition of cognitive dissonance. If I tell you 2 plus 2 is 4, you say, no, I believe it's 5. And then you spend 2,000 years circulating through philosophical and logical arguments to try and make it real, even though you have no data to support it. God is not an axiom, guys. He's not. If your God interacts with reality, that's empirical. It requires data to prove so. And then people always bring up the argument of, well, science doesn't know everything. You're right, science doesn't know everything, but it also doesn't know if your God does or does not exist. And you're the one saying your God does exist, so prove it to me. Well, if science doesn't study everything, then you don't know if our God doesn't exist. Agreed. I'm not saying your God does not exist, but I have no reason to believe that your God does exist. And they say, well, there's other truths than just empirical. I'm like, no, we live in an empirical world, a natural world. I can count my fingers, I can observe items, I can touch them, smell them, see them, we can taste them. We have senses in a natural world. Well, your senses lie. Yeah, that's why you test them. Same thing as I would test observation skills if I am sleeping at night and I see a face in the corner of my room. I'm not going to immediately assume it's a demon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get up, I'm going to turn a light on and change my observation and perspective. And guess what? It's a pile of clothes. We have no evidence for the supernatural. So I have no reason to believe in the supernatural. Now, here's one of my favorite followers. They are a Christian and they openly say they believe because of faith. And I wonder on a daily basis, why is the faith enough for you? That's the hard question for me to understand and comprehend because I'm overly analytical. My feelings do not matter. My opinions do not matter. Anything I think, say, or do does not matter if it is not true. Facts do not have sympathy. You can be sympathetic as a person to deliver facts, but those facts don't care. They don't care. So, regardless of my opinions on anything, if I am wrong, I am wrong. And that's a fact. So, for me, I can't comprehend people being willing to accept faith, period, as evidence. Why? Because it's not logical by literal definition. It's not critical by literal definition. You can probably reason it in your own brain because reasoning is taking in your senses and what you can perceive in your own philosophy as your worldview of truth. So you can reason it to yourself. But even your reasoning, when put to the test against logic and the world as we know it, fails. So even your reasoning isn't sound. So I can't comprehend that. And it's a little bit sad to me pointing that out because I have many followers that are theists. Majority of my followers are atheists, but I do have quite a few that are still theists. I've got over 2,600 plus followers across social medias. I think we're nearing 3,000 in total. By the time this video is out, we'll probably be at 3,000. I don't know. We're growing. By the way, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Hit the like button and comment down why you do or do not believe in God. Guys, there's no evidence. Is it wrong to believe? No. Is it harmful to believe? Not necessarily. Is it true to believe? No. All of my friends in real life believe to some degree. The majority of them are agnostic to some degree of believing in a higher power. I don't argue with them. If they ask a question, I will help them logically think it through. I'm not going to shatter their dreams. I'm not going to shatter their hopes. But we live in a natural world. We live in an empirical world. Everything around us is demonstrable. There are metaphysical thoughts and concepts. There are analytical truths in this world that are a priori and don't require evidence, demonstrable data to prove them to be true. All bachelors are unmarried. But other than those thought concepts, we're in a natural world. And by the way, those are thoughts. They're not in the real world. There are bachelors that do exist, right? There's unmarried people that do exist. That is empirical. And anything having to do with the empirical, we can falsify. And that is demonstrable to be true or false. But there is no reason yet to believe in other dimensions, ghosts, spirits, souls, energies, manifestations. We live in a natural world, guys. I look around this room. If I see something out of the corner of my eye move in a human-like shape, my first thought isn't, holy shit, that's a demon. My first thought is, my mind is playing tricks on me. Why? Because it's completely natural to have a hallucination. And your subconscious mind makes up hallucinations to keep you safe. It's like when you're walking down the street at night and you hear rustling in a bush, your brain immediately tells you this is dangerous, get away from it. Was it dangerous? No, it was probably a squirrel. But for your own safety, it's better for you to be safe than sorry, right? Safe than sorry does not work when it comes to God. That's called Pascal's wager. It's illogical to fear something that you have no reason to fear. I said illogical, I didn't say wrong. So I see that face or that shadow figure. My first thought is, I just had an hallucination. If I see it again, I'm going to think, that's a crazy hallucination. Now, if I'm standing there and I see a shadow standing there, just staring at me, I'm going to think that's pretty fucking crazy. This doesn't seem natural. Then guess what I'm going to do? Test it. I'm going to walk up to it. Chances are it's a shadow from a light. Chances are I'm hallucinating. There's so many options. Natural options. And until you prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it is supernatural, and even when you do prove the supernatural, proving it to be natural, and we'll have more demonstrable data to explain why these spirits do or do not exist. Until then, guys, I don't have a reason to believe in the supernatural. Neither do you. There is no such thing as an argument that proves God. There is no argument that proves ghosts. There's no philosophy that proves the supernatural. There's no metaphysical thought that proves the supernatural. Nothing. We live in a natural world. I'm going to leave the video off on that. Hit the like button and comment down below.